How you guys doing? Big Bran here, and welcome to a very special edition of Big Game Fridays. So before we get started on playing any instruments or learning any notes, digging into any heavy theory, I just wanted to share a very basic and yet important concept that has helped me along my journey as a musician, as well as being an aspiring producer, and that is that music is indeed a universal language. One of the things that means is that you have to be patient with yourself, right? It's going to take some time to learn it. So you shouldn't be so hard on yourself if you don't get it right away, right? Another thing that means is that there are some things that compare and some parallels between music as a language and whatever your native language was growing up, or if you learned a foreign language or other languages later on in life. And so when we're children and we're learning languages, the first thing we learn how to do is listen. And then as we listen, we begin to mimic, right? So as we're little babies or toddlers, parents talking around the house, siblings are talking, cousins, aunties and uncles, whoever, right? And we're listening to everything that they're saying. And even though we can't fully comprehend, we're kind of picking up some of those context clues, and we start to mimic what they're saying. We learn how to babble, and we learn how to begin to communicate a little bit more effectively using words. And then from there, we go to school and we begin to learn how to read and write. Some parents start at home. They start teaching their kids before they get to school, different colors and shapes and their names and things of that nature. They learn how to read and write. And then from that point on, once you're in school, and you learn how to read and write, you begin to have conversation. You begin to speak the language, and you begin to comprehend to a point to where all those things that you've learned to do come together. You're listening, you're reading, and you're writing come together, and you begin to have conversation. And whether you are in pre-K, kindergarten, up to your graduate or postdoctorate, you're still doing those same basic principles that you learned at a very young age, right? It's just more in depth now. It's just more comprehensive. And the same thing applies for music, right? When we're growing up, we're listening to different music through our parents or our friends or TV, movies, ads, at the supermarket, at the mall, in the car, or wherever we're traveling to, and we're listening, right? And then we mimic. We either learn the lyrics and we start singing them, or we kind of mimic the air guitar solo, or we hit them with the air drum solo. And then from there, what I would like to introduce is obviously some of the theory side, which is the reading of music, which is the writing of music, which kind of brings into comprehension of what we've been singing and mimicking all along. And then, of course, from there, we have conversation. We begin to speak the language and we can communicate with other people what we're saying.